Good morning, teachers and Dr. Medrano. Again, I am Ms. Ludilin S. Mahinay, your first presenter for today, and I will be discussing the types of grammar, including the definition of grammar and syntax. Let's start with this broad term, grammar. Grammar is the whole system and structure of a language or of languages in general, usually taken as consisting of syntax and morphology and sometimes also phonology and semantics. So the word grammar comes from the Greek word grammatic technique, which means art of letters. It helps us understand the structure of language, from the single word to the collection of sentences into a paragraph. It also enables us to identify the function of words and their relation with one another. Grammar deals with words, forms of words, word combination, and the relationship between words. It tells us what words do in sentences and how they combine to convey meaning. So the meaning communicated by the language structures makes it functional and vital in real life. So that is grammar. Next, we have syntax. So syntax is under the word grammar. It is the arrangement of words in sentences, clauses, and phrases, and the study of the formation of sentences and the relationship of their component parts. Other details about syntactical structures will be discussed by my group mates. Let's now proceed with the main topic, which is types of grammar. All well and good, but which type of grammar do we know? Linguists are able to point out that there are various types of grammar, or ways of defining and analyzing the structure and functions of language. These are just some of the types. We have mental grammar, developmental grammar, prescriptive grammar, descriptive grammar, and pedagogical grammar. So I will be discussing the two types, mental and the developmental grammar. The first type is the mental grammar. It is the internal linguistic knowledge in mind. Mental grammar is the generative grammar stored in the brain that allows a speaker to produce language that other speakers can understand. It is also known as competence grammar and linguistic competence. In linguistics, generative grammar is a grammar that indicates the structure and the interpretation of sentences that native speakers of a language accept as belonging to their language and part of the human brain. So we have Noam Chomsky. He popularized the idea of mental grammar. Since this type focuses on grammar as a mental entity, significant progress in characterizing the structure of languages has been made. So in mental grammar, babies and toddlers don't really receive grammar instruction on how to put words together in a sentence. Yet, they learn their native tongue just by exposure to it. Chomsky worked on what it was that was special about human brains that enabled this learning. So that is mental grammar. Next type is developmental grammar. It is a learner's grammar. It's like mental grammar in developmental stage. Type of language produced by learners who are in the process of learning a language. So it takes time for children to learn how to speak properly. Grammar development, on the other hand, is a slow and continuous process. In the language use of an L1 or L2 learner, which is the result of a normal pattern of development and is common among language learners. Although no two children are similar, parents can expect their children to adopt a general grammar progression. So children improve their ability to speak in proper English as they progress through the stages of grammar development. The first stage is called one-word stage. Roughly between 12 and 18 months, a child begins to speak in single-word utterances such as milk, mommy, and so on. So the words simply serve a naming function, but sometimes convey more complex meaning, which are holophrases. So the words that children learn within this age span or stage are predominantly nouns. Those words are called holophrases. For example, the word juice might mean I've finished my juice or I want more juice. Therefore, the single word is taking the place of a more complex grammar construction that the child hasn't learned yet. The second stage is two-word stage. Two-word sentences usually appear when the child is around 18 months old. Usually, the two words are in a grammatically correct sequence, such as subject plus verb, as in Jenny sleep, or verb plus object, as Susie juice, and subject plus complement, as in Daddy busy. Also, in this stage, when a child tries to repeat what an adult has said, it will miss out part of the sentence, but what is retained is usually grammatically correct. Just this example. The adult has said, "Look, Charlie, Ben's playing in the garden." So the child will say, "Play garden." The example shows how children in this stage focus on keywords. Words that convey less information, such as in or the, for example, are missed out. We also have to take note that during this stage, since children do not yet understand tenses or plurals, there may be some confusion as to what a child means during the two-word stage. It can also have several meanings depending on the context of the utterance. So it is important that we have to look on the actions of the child while she or he is saying something. The third stage is the telegraphic stage. From the age of about 2, children begin producing 3 and 4-word utterances. For example, some will be grammatically complete, such as Ami likes tea or Mommy sleeps upstairs, but others will have essential grammatical elements missing, such as Daddy home now or Laura broke plate. So these utterances are similar to some of those used in the two-word stage. They can often make sense, but key elements are missing. Progress during this stage is rapid. By the age of 5, children have usually mastered sentences containing more than one clause, conjunctions, and ing, ed, or s endings to words and verbs. These are known as inflectional affixes. Still under the third stage is the acquisition of inflections. Research indicates that there is a predictable pattern in the acquisition of inflectional affixes. These are word endings such as ed and ing. Functional words such as articles like a and the, and also auxiliary verbs seems to be acquired in a regular order. So, Brown, in 1973, studied children's language development between the ages of 20 months and 36 months. and found the sequence shown below occurred regularly. So the fixtures are also listed in the order in which they were acquired. So while Cruttenden in 1979 divided the acquisition of inflections into the following 3 stages. In the first stage, children memorize words on an individual basis. In the second stage, they show an awareness of the general rules of inflections. They observe that past tense forms usually end in ed. So instead of run as in RAN, they say rund as in RUNN plus ed. This kind of error is known as overgeneralization. The third stage, correct inflections are used by the children. Next is understanding grammatical rules. Children produce accurate grammatical constructions from an early age, and researchers have tried to determine if they have learned this themselves or have copied adult speech. So a famous experiment was carried out by Jean Berko in 1958, who showed children pictures of fictitious creatures he called wags. At first, the child was shown a picture of one creature and told this is a wag. Then they were shown a picture of two wags, and the children were asked to complete the sentence. Now, there are two blank. So children aged 3 and 4 replied wags. As they could never have heard this word before, it becomes clear that they were applying the rule that plural end in S. So however, children between the ages of 2.5 and 5 often overgeneralize with plurals. So we hear things like sheeps and mouses. So in the same stage, children tend to ask questions, more questions. So research suggests that this happens in 3 stages. So the first stage or the first year, relying on intonation in the two-word stage. Example, daddy home with the rising tone. During the second year, children acquire question words such as what and where, resulting in questions such as where daddy gone. They can't yet use auxiliary verbs such as has. While in their third year, children can use auxiliary verbs and learn to say, is Joe here? However, they can't always use WH words correctly and might say things like why Joe isn't here. So aside from asking questions, children use negatives. And this also happens in 3 stages. Words no and not are used in front of other expressions. For example, no one. During the second year, don't and can't are used. For example, I don't want it. While in the third stage, more negative forms are acquired, such as didn't and isn't, and negative constructions are used more accurately. And that would be all for mental and developmental grammar. These are my references. Once again, I am Ms. Ludilyn S. Mahinay, and thank you for listening.